just don't know what to say today. I just don't know what to say. The Giants got swept for the second straight time. And I will just be honest now and say that although it has not mathematically done it, I do think that this pretty much rules out a playoff run for the Giants this year. I think that their playoff run has effectively come to an end as of right now. And that's just, it's not okay. It's a complete failure of this year. And I hope that the front office understands that something has to be done, that they actually need to change some things over the offseason and change things big, because this Giants roster is just not right now. Alex Wood pitched poorly again today, giving up 4 runs in 4.2 innings. So if there's anyone to trade over the offseason, it might be him. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean to Alex Wood or anything. I'm just saying that he's making too much money to be pitching like this, and that might be a trade over the offseason. Of course, he could get better next year. I'm not sure. But basically, I'm just saying this year, when the Giants, they were going into 2022 with a 5-man rotation that was supposed to be good, offense that was supposed to be good, and a bullpen, too, that I think you would say it was supposed to be pretty good. But things just, and they won games too. They had a really good record. And then they lost it. I mean, they started losing like right before the trade deadline and losing big. What that 7-game skid right before the trade deadline did to the Giants was prevented them from getting the talent that they needed to pick up at the August 2nd trade deadline. That outside of just what it does to what a skid like that does to their wild card standings, what that week before the trade deadline, well, it wasn't the week directly before it, what that 7-game losing streak did to the Giants, based on the fact that it happened right before the trade deadline. Yeah, it moved them back in the wild card race for sure, but outside of that, it prevented Farhan Zaidi and the front office from really being aggressive to pick up talent that the Giants needed. And we just see it now, that they needed that kind of talent for a playoff run this year. And I think they would have traded for somebody. They would have picked up 1 or 2 real good players. They would have been more aggressive if they had stayed in the mix, because they were planning to buy. That was the Giants' plan all along. There was a lot of talk of them picking up someone like Juan Soto. Whether they would have thought of picking up another starting pitcher, I'm not sure. I know they were thinking of picking up a couple of relievers, but the basic idea is that they were planning to buy. And then they had that huge, ridiculous losing streak near the trade deadline, and that prevented them from doing that, although they did not trade Carlos Rodon. They stayed alive in the wild card race after the trade deadline for a while, but now they've lost their 7th straight game, getting swept in 2 straight series. And it's just not good. They don't stand in a good spot, and I think that they have dumped this year. So we can put the blame a lot of places. We can say a lot of things happened that just should not have. One of them being the fact that the front office needed to pick up. I mean, the Giants, even with such a horrible losing streak back then, they were still in the mix, and the front office really did need to pick up something for the Giants. Some superstar talent that could have helped them, and you just see the fact that they stayed in the wild card race for as long as they did. So what would have been different if they had picked up like Juan Soto, or if they had picked up maybe a really good hitter and a really good relief pitcher or something like that? What would have happened? Well, I don't know. And I understand one player isn't always enough to change a roster, but you know what? I'm still saying that that's what the trade deadline's for, and there are teams that do see improvements when they get a player. And the Giants, they just did basically none of that. They got J.D. Davis for Darren Ruff, and I'm not sure how Darren Ruff is doing with the Mets. I'm not sure what the Giants gave up to get Davis, who has hit some home runs. he has shown something with the bat for them, and I don't know what the exchange value of Ruff for Davis would have been, but basically the Giants did not do enough, and while they should have done what they needed to do anyway at the trade deadline, I do believe that their losing streak, I know their losing streak right before then, that bad losing streak kept them from doing it. And now we're seeing another losing streak here from which it appears that there is just no return. After their sweep by the Twins, they were in the race. 3 games ago, the Giants were in the wild card race. A lot changes in 3 games. They couldn't figure out a way to win a game in this series when they absolutely needed to. They needed a win and yet could not coordinate the team together to figure out how to win. And it's been a 1-run game every single game against the Padres. Think about that. It has not been a blowout. It's been a 1-run game every single game. On Monday it was 6-5, Giants almost came back. Tuesday was 4-3, Giants almost came back. And today? Well, today was 5-4. It's just like almost the same thing here. Alex Wood gives up 4 runs. What do the Giants do? They score a bit. And Austin wins. He had a double. Luis Gonzalez and Jock Peterson both had singles. And it wasn't quite enough to come back. 3rd straight game where they did the same thing. Came back to being behind by 1 run, couldn't score that run. But the point is, whether it's by 1 run or by many, they lost all 3 of these games to the Padres. They got swept for the 2nd straight time. And they can't figure out a way to win when they need to. They don't have a history of doing that this year. They didn't do that before the trade deadline. They couldn't, well, I will say they beat the Cubs in that series, but I think the time to figure out how to win was before then, and the Giants couldn't do that, and they couldn't do it now. It's just like that way it is. No, I mentioned earlier today, no capitalization on opportunities to play weak teams. Now they're playing the strong ones, and it's taking its toll, it's taking its effect on them. So this season, just truly a losing season, and something where everything just went wrong for the Giants, and they could not get it together. They did not have it, and they lost something that they really should have had this year, or at least have had a chance of having, which is a wild card spot. So I just have to say, I hope they make changes to the team in the offseason. I hope they understand that, yes, a losing season is a time to learn, but ultimately that's not going to be okay, and that the 2023 roster is built better, which it absolutely needs to be, because this was insufficient. They got on several losing skids this year, one right before the trade deadline, so their roster stays basically the same. Then with that roster that is basically the same, they got on another losing streak at just a critical time. And at the time, I can just point to the fact that 3 games ago, the Giants were in this still. And each of these 3 games was lost by 1 run. And that's just a pathetic way to lose your realistic chance at the postseason. Each 3 games ago, they were in the race. Realistically, they lost each of these 3 games by 1 run. And it just won't get together. Roster just can't put it together. And that's a very bad thing for the team. So the basic idea is that things need to change this offseason. And the Giants need to know what to change, and they need to sign free agents. It's time to look for outside talent. Thank you for watching. This has been Giants Baseball 101. Please subscribe if you have not. Also, please comment or email me at gabrielvaughn89@gmail.com. And with that, I'll see you next time on Giants Baseball 101.